Hey, this is your girl, Jessica, aka Jess Peachy. I'm a Southern girl from Georgia, native Peach. I'm a mom of two, wife, and former teacher turned mamapreneur, blogger, and self-care coach, working hard out here to live the Smoms Lifestyle. I help women just like you learn to create sustainable and transformational life-changing habits by practicing self-care. Here, I'll cover topics like how to use inspirational self-talk to live in your purpose, self-love, self-discovery, mental wellness, and many topics pertaining to self-care, stress management, and so much more. If that sounds like your cup of positivi-tea, you like how I did that? Positivi-tea? Yes, it's the tea, girl. Then check out this podcast. Let's get encouraged. You've got this. Hey, ladies. So I wanted to get on here today. This is actually not a podcast that I intended to do. Most of my podcasts, I sit and I plan them out so that it's logical and it makes sense and it flows well. However, today I am getting on here and putting this up because I've had some revelations and I feel like these are things that could be helpful to a lot of women. I know that this particular podcast is going to be meant for a specific mom. I don't know who that specific mom is, but I know that it will help someone or some women specifically who can relate to what I'm about to talk about and will be able to have a sense of it's not just me and I'm not alone and I can get through this and I can do this type feeling, because I know once upon a time I kind of wish I had that in an earlier phase. So with all of that said, I'm about to be a little transparent here. My first child, my son, he had some developmental delays when he was younger. He didn't quite start communicating when he needed to. He was kind of behind on some of the traditional milestones that, babies would make. But being a new mom, I didn't know. I didn't really have a point of reference to say he should be doing this at this phase and all those things. So I did what a lot of new moms do, and sometimes are just unaware. And so moving ahead, I took him when he was about 13 months old to get evaluated to see, and this was based off of some advice that I was given from other professionals that we had worked with, speech therapists, and at that time it was the Babies Can't Wait program. They also encouraged me and gave me a reference to take him to go get evaluated to see if he had autism or any other type of developmental issues going on. And at that time, he did not have autism. It was just he had symptoms and signs, but because he was so little, they just wanted me to wait until he got a little bit older before giving that type of diagnosis. Now he's 8 now, so that was again 8 years ago. But speed up time a little bit. So now he's 8, as I just said, and I've always known that my son has just had different challenges, and we've always worked with him. We've always got him the support that he needs. We got the early intervention and all those things, but he never has actually, and he still honestly does not have a official diagnosis of autism. For me, because I don't necessarily He's getting all the resources he needs. He's getting all the supports that he needs at this point. And every child is different. And I encourage any mom who has concerns to seek out professional help. Do not wait. Do not make excuses. Do not come up with all of these, reasons in your head as to why your child does not need to be tested. If you have some sense of an inkling that there is something that is different, something that is off, it is better safe than sorry to go ahead and get your child evaluated. In no sense of this conversation am I saying do not take your children to go get evaluated. Please go take your children to go get evaluated if you have a concern. Please do that, because early intervention is what saves, and truthfully, what saved my child. Even though he does not have an official diagnosis of autism, early intervention still was beneficial for my child in more words than I would ever be able to express. So if you have a concern, please go take your child to get evaluated. So with all of that said, we've had some challenges off and on throughout his school years. And this particular year, he is in third grade and he's doing amazing and had been doing amazing. And then out of the blue, just all of these crazy phone calls started happening from school about him doing this and him doing that. And just what is happening? And I don't understand. Now, mind you, I'm in the middle of trying to really pursue some ventures that I've kind of been working on for a while. But this year, I'm really committing myself to really putting in the time and effort to getting things moving. I have the blog that I'm working on. I have my shop that I'm working on, smomslife.com, which I've spoken about in previous episodes. And when you are a mom with 2 children and lots of mom responsibilities and trying to make sure you're staying on top of everything with your children, trying to make sure you're staying on top of everything with business, trying to make sure you're staying on top of your mental and physical wellness yourself, time is always a struggle. And so with that said, I had started the routine of getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Some of that was to try to get some things done on the front end before anyone else was awake, so I would have some time to myself. And then some of that was just so I could have some time to myself, to be in my own thoughts, my own ideas, to be to myself. Because I'm a person, I kind of like to be to myself sometimes. I like talking to people. I love people, but sometimes I want to be to myself. I have no problem being alone. But it's hard to do that when you are a mom. And that's just being quite honest. A mom that is married and has her mom living with her as well. There's a lot of people in the house. So, it's hard to be by yourself. So that morning slot at 4:30 was when I was doing that. And so what was happening, I was getting up at 4:30, and even though I was getting up that early, my plans were to go to bed earlier, but I wasn't quite going to bed earlier. So I was getting up early and I was staying up late trying to work on things. And doing that consistently was definitely starting to take a toll, more than I was even aware of. And so the other day, the school called and he had been placed in school suspension because he threw a block at another kid. And the teacher told me it was because he told her that he threw the block because he wanted to sit where the kid was sitting and the kid didn't get up. That was the story that the teacher told me. My son told her. So once he got home, and because it had been the last 2.5, almost 3 weeks of constant things, I just decided, look, I need to check him out today. I need to have a full-fledged conversation. I don't understand what is happening because it just came out of nowhere. So With that being said, my husband went and checked him out of school. We have a conversation, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of what happened at school. And then I didn't even mention that it was another interaction with him and some other child he was in conflict with, where there was hitting involved and all sorts of crazy stuff. But with that being said, we checked him out to bring him home to have a conversation, to find out exactly what's happening between him and this other child, to find out what is the acting out or the behavior. What is all of this about? Because it came out of nowhere. Now, with my son, because he has some communication challenges, sometimes is a challenge in getting the full story of things. I have to strategically ask certain questions, and that truthfully is just children. But with mine, I feel like it's just a little bit more elevated because of some of the challenges that he does have. So trying to ask strategic questions to get the information that I need to get out of him, and trying to help him explain what it is that he's trying to explain without me really even knowing what he's trying to explain. And I'm doing all of this, mind you, on a very tired body and brain that has been getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going to bed maybe 12 o'clock, 12:30, and when I'm making a very horrible choice, 1 o'clock, and still turning around and getting right back up at 4:30. So keep that in mind, okay? So with that being said, he was trying to explain and do his usual, and it wasn't making any sense. He was saying things about somebody floating around in the classroom on a cloud, and the person had a robot arm and hit him with the robot arm. It just all this crazy, wacky stuff that makes absolutely no sense at all. And because my brain is stressed out, my body is stressed out, I'm tired, I'm not thinking clearly and rationally, and I already in the back of my mind have always struggled with wanting to make sure my child will be able to function in the way that I want him to function, and I know that he needs to function in real life as an adult. That has always been in the back of my head, and making sure that we train him in the way that he needs to be trained to be able to do that. And so with that thought being back there, me being tired and all of that, I mentally go straight to, oh my gosh, my child does not know the difference between reality and pretend. He doesn't know that people don't really float on clouds. He doesn't understand that this is not the truth, and this is not really the real story that really happened. And oh my gosh, what have I done wrong as a parent? And I just went on this huge rant. I don't know. I just was not thinking rationally at all. And so it was kind of not a good day for me. I was emotional and crying, and it was just too much. It was like team overload. I was mentally and physically overloaded at that point with everything. And so I just had to have him go off and go take his shower like he's supposed to. And I found myself trying to make sense out of what was happening. Even though it was illogical and it didn't make sense, I was trying to make it make sense. And I was doing it on a tired brain. And that's when I realized, Jessica, you were doing way too much. Like the whole day almost, I spent talking to him about trying to train him in how you communicate things that are happening, using the first, second, next, then last when you're telling a story, so that you can make it make sense in logical order. Even giving him, and sometimes I do this, and yesterday I definitely should not have done this, but I give him pieces of paper. I give him 4 pieces of paper. I lay out the 4 pieces of paper, and I put the main, for example, he said that he was hit by someone. So I wrote that sentence at the top of one of the pieces of paper, and I put that in the third position. I put a second sheet in front of that, and then a first sheet in front of that, because I wanted to know the events that happened before those two things. And sometimes he doesn't necessarily put things in chronological order when he's speaking. So if he's drawing a picture of these things in the order that it happened, sometimes I can get the actual story in the correct chronological order that they actually happened. But yesterday he was just on a whole nother level with the pretend robot arm, cloud floating children. I don't know what that was about, but anyway. So with that being said, I just had to stop, take a break, and my mom came down and said, Jessica, you are not going to fix this today. And in my mind, I just had to stop and realize she's right. I'm not going to fix this problem today. This problem of trying to help him understand how to communicate things in a chronological order is not going to be fixed today. It is something that I have to keep working on consistently with him. Sometimes as moms, we get caught up in what we want, when we want it, how we want it, at the time that we want it, and not taking a realistic look at when things will really realistically be able to be accomplished. We do this because we know what our goals are. We know what our ideas and our thoughts are, and we know what we want. But at the same time, what we want is not always the reality of what's going to happen. And we have to be open and willing to accept that things don't happen in the order and in the time that we want them to happen. So that's the first thing that I want you ladies to hear and understand. You have to embrace things happening in their own time and be okay with things happening in their own time. Now, the next thing I had to do, I had to take a break from constantly asking him all these questions throughout the day, constantly having him explain the first, second, next, last of everything that he was doing, so I could make sure that he knew how to do that. I had to stop. I had to go outside. Now, it is super cold outside right now. I'm sitting outside. My hair is not done. I'm in a house coat. My shoes are halfway on my feet. But at the end of the day, I did not even care. I just needed to sit outside and get some fresh air. So that's the next thing, ladies. When you know that you are not in a good space, you just need to stop what you're doing. Go get some fresh air. Fresh air can do so much for your brain when you are in a frazzled, illogical state. Okay? So I sat on the porch and I just practiced doing some deep breathing to kind of oxygenate my body, to help my nervous system calm down and relax. And then at that particular time, I was listening to one of my gospel songs that I just needed to hear. Order My Steps. I forget the name of the artist, but that was the song that I was listening to. And it just calmed my spirit so much. And that was what I needed at that time. We have to be aware of what we're needing at a given time. You need different things at different times. Sometimes the care that you need is to go to sleep, and you need to be able to acknowledge that and actually give your body what it needs. You may not necessarily be able to go to sleep at a certain time that you would like, that you're feeling tired and sleepy, but you need to tell yourself, today is a day that I need to go to bed early so that I can get sleep. Your body might need more water. When you know that your body is craving that, you need to be more conscious and aware of giving your body more water. You might be needing something totally different, where you're feeling chaotic in your mind, and you look around your house and your house is a chaotic mess. It might be that you need to Stop making other things a priority. In the next day, only focus on getting your house together, not focusing on anything else, but getting your house back together. Environmental self-care that we don't always think about. Sometimes when our house is cluttered and a hot mess, our brains are cluttered and a hot mess. And we have to take a break from all the other things that we're doing and get our environment back together so that we can mentally be back together. That's also important and key. So this particular point that I want to make is listening to your body, giving yourself the self-care that you need, and making sure you do it consistently. Because I am all about creating consistent, sustainable, transformational habits for your self-care. We have to do that. We have to make our self-care, our minds, our bodies, our spirits a priority. Just like we make all the other things and all the responsibilities in our lives a priority. We have to do the same thing for ourselves. So, with that being said, I realized yesterday that I just needed to get some sleep. Okay? Sometimes we are making mountains out of molehills because our bodies are stressed and our bodies are tired. So I stopped this morning and I looked up some things about stress and some things about sleep. And I'm going to share with you what I researched. This is not something that I'm making up. I'm just sharing the information that I quickly researched this morning. So when your stress is left unchecked, it can lead to high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes. You may have known that, you may not have known that. But I have high blood pressure. Okay? Now, granted, that started after I had my daughter, but it is definitely not helping. I'm definitely not helping myself right now. Because my ultimate goal is to get off of this medication because I was never on it before I had my child. Before I had her, I didn't have any high blood pressure issues or challenges. So my goal is to get off of this. So I have to make sure that if that's my goal, that I'm strategically doing things that will help my body to be able to do what it needs to do and function without the medication. Stress and adding stress onto my body is not going to help that. And I want you all to be aware of that. Be aware of your stress levels and what you're doing to your body when you are putting yourself in stressful situations and allowing stressful situations to linger instead of addressing them so that you can be in a better space. Now, leading to my next point. Signs of stress: difficulty breathing, panic attacks, blurred vision, sore eyes, problem sleeping, fatigue and tired, muscle aches and headaches, even indigestion and heartburn. Those are all things related to stress. Now, out of those, I actually was having a little blurred vision. I actually was having some sleep problems, and I was definitely tired and fatigued. I didn't have any of the other issues, but I was starting to exhibit some of those signs. So when you're conscious of yourself, what your normal challenges are, and when you are able to connect that to what you are actively doing, and if you know that you are connecting these issues to something that you're actively doing, you have to acknowledge it, see it, and correct it. Signs of lack of sleep: slowed thinking, reduced attention span, worsened memory, poor or risky decision making, lack of energy, mood changes. Now, out of those, my thinking was definitely not up to par. I definitely had a short attention span. I was forgetting everything. Now, I already forget most stuff anyway. My family already talked about me about that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point is, I definitely was missing sleep. And energy was definitely an issue. And I definitely had some mood swings going on. Now, when we are dealing with all these issues, moms, we are essentially the heart of our home. We're the heartbeat. We are what help our home function. And if we're not functioning at our top level, giving ourselves what we need, everything else in our home will not function the way that it needs. And that's exactly what was happening in my home. So when you see it, you got to fix it, because it is not fair to everybody in the house to end up being punished almost, because you are putting yourself in all of these constraints and restraints that you really don't have to put yourself in. Take a moment, think it through, plan it out, figure it out. And sometimes the simple solution is get some sleep. Okay, now some small habits, because I told you that I'm about creating sustainable, realistic, small habits that will actually lead to long-term results. One thing that I determined yesterday is taking a quick power nap. I literally just had a 10-minute, just laid down for 10 minutes. I didn't even realize I was asleep in that 10 minutes, but just laying down for 10, 20 minutes. If you can do longer than 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, just a quick power nap will do all the good in the world sometimes. Just to get that time to stop and debrief. And you have to be able to ask for help when you need it. You can't just be in an overdrive go mode all the time. You have to be able to stop and ask for help. The next thing, getting fresh air. Going outside, I don't even care if it's cold. Put on a coat. Don't sit outside and look country like I did, sit in a house coat. Get a coat. And that's when you have waited too long before you're giving yourself the self-care that you need, when you just don't care what you're sitting outside in, okay? But at the end of the day, give yourself the mental space. And outside time is so beneficial. Giving yourself that time outside just to be with nature. I'm not even a person that really likes going on nature walks, because I'm always scared of what might be in the forest, lurking around on the ground that slithers. I don't even want to say the name, but I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. So nature walking is not necessarily my thing, but I love still walking outside, as long as I can clearly see the ground and what's in front of me and behind me and around me, as long as I can clearly see that. Outside walking is definitely my thing, and I like to do it because it genuinely helps calm and relax me. I implore you to try it if you are not a fresh air break taker. It is a small thing and it's not challenging to do. You don't even have to do it by yourself if you have children. You can take them with you. All of you could benefit from a little short walk of fresh air. Just a different scenery from your house, giving your eyes, your brain, your ears, your mind away from your home, away from the news, away from everything that is going on in your house, getting yourself out of that, breathing, relaxing, and calming yourself does wonders. So taking walks and getting some fresh air. The next thing, looking at patterns that you're doing, paying attention to your sleep patterns. If you know that you are going to bed late and then you're getting up early, you're not setting yourself up to be the most successful. You're not setting yourself up to be or to reduce your stress, and you're not setting yourself up to get the amount of sleep that you need. So one of my goals is to choose the days that I'm going to stay up a little later And if I choose to stay up later on those days, I am going to make sure I will not get up at 4:30 if I have stayed up later. And I'm going to do the opposite. If I went to bed earlier on a specific day, then that means that morning I will be getting up earlier so that I can do the things that I need to do. I can't have it and you can't have it both ways. You can't stay up late and get up early and do it consistently all the time and think your body will not be stressed and think your mind will not be stressed and think that you will be fully rested and getting the sleep that you need. You have to be able to get the sleep and you have to be able to function in order to get the things done that you need to do. Okay? Excuse me. All right. And then the next thing, and I kind of went over that already, going to bed earlier and sleeping later. Just making sure that you're doing those things. Making sure that you're in tune to yourself and your needs. Pay attention to what your body needs. Pay attention to the self-care that you're needing. It might be physical self-care at a specific moment. It might be emotional self-care at a given moment. It might be social self-care, needing to go talk to somebody. You might be in need of financial self-care at a given moment. I mean, there's so many different things that you need. We are humans that are filled with different needs. We don't always need the same thing at the same time. We are complex. We were created to be complex. Okay? So with that being said, make sure you pay attention to yourself, your needs, and giving yourself what you need. So at the end of the day, take this. Give yourself the time, the space that you need to pour into yourself before you pour into someone else. And get yourself some sleep. Okay? So I hope you got something out of that. I pray that you have a wonderful, beautiful day. I pray that you go out and make today better than you did yesterday. Be kind to someone. Be loving. Be generous. And make a difference in someone else's day. Okay? Until next time, ladies, color your thoughts. Beautiful.
Sometimes we're crashing down.